How can we keep up when the brains of this nation were there? The brains, and they were looking at the future of civil rights and what we must do. There were thousands of ministers there from all over the world. And one thing that was wrong with our delegation, we did not have the representatives from our ministers. Calvin, I know you are excited, and I just want you to look at this. Isn't this a beautiful, maybe you can describe this trophy far better than I. Would you describe it?
Mom, it's very easy to describe because it looks like about 50,000 cans, a whole bunch of candy, a whole lot of time that the members of the Youth Council spent in Oklahoma City trying to get that trophy. But it is beautiful. Plexiglass with the NAACP symbol floating in the middle of it with the inscription, as you read in there, but Outstanding Youth Council Award, 3rd place. And this is an inspirational trophy. The young people that went to the convention were in such a mood that they said that they're coming back next year, but not for 3rd place, not for 2nd place, but going after that 1st place. It's a beautiful trophy. Invite all of Oklahoma City to come by the Freedom Center at 2609 North Martin Luther King and to take a look at the trophy that they've helped Oklahoma City's prize-winning NAACP Youth Council continue its tradition. Hey, Chris Fowler was outstanding as a leader this year. Look forward to seeing what the Youth Council will do this year. What type of programs are in store for the NAACP Youth Council?
Okay,
Calvin.
Okay, Calvin, when I think about the programs that are in store for us, I want to explain to the people what kind of programs it took to win 3rd place. Now, the first thing is in the area of civil rights. Your NAACP Youth Council, and I'm talking about yours because it belongs to the people of Oklahoma City of all races, creeds, and colors. The first part was civil rights and investigating civil rights cases where people were discriminated against us. When the founding figures were in last year, your NAACP Youth Council looked into 400 cases of racial discrimination in Oklahoma City. Your Youth Council looked in and investigated 400 cases of racial discrimination in Oklahoma City. Now, these were in all areas. And your Youth Council was able to work out some answers to help over 300 people rid themselves and rid the company of an aristocratic type of discrimination. Now, Calvin, what do you think about that? Your NAACP Youth Council. I'm talking about young children from 5 through 18 and 19. Over 400 cases that are documented of racial discrimination that we looked into.
I think that shows the initiative that the Youth Council has taken, but it also shows the problem that exists here in Oklahoma City and Oklahoma, and the need for the NAACP Youth Council. So that's what makes this coming year much more important, because we should be coming up with programs or attitudes or arrangements in some way where no longer will there be any issues of discrimination, but then that's looking for a perfect society, and I don't think that we'll find that here.
Okay,
the Youth Council will continue in that vein. One thing.
Yes, they will continue, but I would like to finish telling you why the Youth Council won the prize. Now, if you understand that your NAACP Youth Council looked into 400 cases of racial discrimination, the second area was in the area of education. And that's an area that we are really excited about, because in the NAACP leadership first, we had leaders with 4.0 averages. We had leaders that went to their schools and led in academics as well as sports. Education, and then you would say, okay, why is your educational program so effective? In the first place, we are very fortunate to have a large number of adults that work with the young people, and we meet every Monday night and minister to the needs of the young people. We don't talk about how bad our young people are. We don't talk about they are slow learners and all that kind of junk. If we have young people who don't know their multiplication tables, then our responsibility is to help them. Our young people need help. It's easy to stand up and say, oh, they are slow learners, they can't do that. Well, you know how to do it. Why don't you do it? And that's our philosophy. And you cannot eliminate, you cannot look over what these adults are doing. Now, it was one adult that did not attend the meeting, and that was Mrs. Maxine Stale. Now, Mrs. Maxine Stale taught a class that the young people remember so well. It was a simple class, how to get along with people in business. The customer, Mrs. Stale say, is always right. And with that one lesson, young people were better able to continue their education. I need not tell you about the math, the science, and all of the other things that our young people, even at 5 years old, these young people are exposed to. Every Monday night, with the exception of holidays, your NACP Youth Council has met. Now, the third thing that the National looked at, these young people own their own building where they can come in and out, where they have books. And then when you think about people like Mr. O'Quinn, who gave to the Youth Council a set of world books in order that they could better study. Our educational program consisted of our working with the Ralph Ellison's Library, with Betty Jean Germany, inviting the young people down to check out books, and it was unbelievable. But that educational program of the NACP Youth Council caught everybody's attention. These young people had performed at their state convention, at their regional conventions. They were able to stand out, speak up, and discuss the issues. And that was another area. The other area was in memberships. The NACP Youth Council worked hard in memberships. And this year, they are saying they are going to be number one. And if they could be number one without your membership, just think what they will be with your membership. They have a thing going this year where they are going to see what group can bring in the largest number of memberships, the men and the young men or the young women. That's going to be quite interesting.
That's an exciting way, and it's also very cute how the NACP Youth Council is divided up into groups. Will you explain that to us, the different names, how the Youth Council members went about selecting names for their different groups and how that group report works? Because I was at one meeting one Monday, and you're talking about that 5-year-old, one of those 5-year-old members who was in attendance, but that young lady walked there to the front of the room and said her name and gave her report. It was just outstanding. But the group names are so exciting, and when they get ready for their reports, it's really an exciting time during an NACP Youth Council meeting.
Well, the groups are named after men and women that have fought in Oklahoma City for freedom. For example, there's the Abner Group. Now, that group is a group that's named after a man who revolutionized the street department and became the first one to file a suit of discrimination against the city, the Abner Group. Then you have the Hunter Group, named after William and Letty Ruth Hunter, and they were the first ones to give a donation on the building of Freedom Center, and has pioneered in civil rights. The Hunter Group, because every time you call the name Hunter, that reminds our young people that this was the first black to serve on the Tinkerfield Credit Union board and also to become president of that board. You have the W.K. Jackson Group. That's a group that's keeps the name W.K. Jackson up front because of his leadership, not only in preaching, telling it like it is, but in getting out there walking for freedom and going to jail for freedom. Then you have that Brown Group, that group that's named after the Honorable Leslie Brown, who walked along in front of the hotels in order that black workers, black labor people could have a better day. Oh, I could go on down the line, Calvin, but it's really, to sum it up, we have over 20 groups named after pioneers in civil rights. Who would want to forget the Perry Group? Who would want to forget Dungy's Group? Oh, on down the line. I'm telling you.
By naming the groups, though, And the point that I was hoping that you would get to is that it's a continual historical lesson that goes on during the NACP meeting at Freedom Center.
That's exactly right, and I do hope I'm going to have some of the young people to come out here and show you how it's done. We have a JET group, which means that if black people to move ahead, they have to go forward. Now, no other youth council in the United States, no other youth council has the kind of setup that we have. Now, we have a combination of all of our young people together because we believe that age discrimination is just as bad as racial discrimination. So if you have a person in the 12th grade that can work with someone in the first grade, we think that's for a new situation. Now, Calvin, this is our education program that we are really excited about. Next, we have the membership program. We have the Fighting Fund for Freedom, and this year that handsome Lionel Bennett, dressed in a black tuxedo furnished by the National NACP office, walked down that aisle as Mr. NACP along with that beautiful, talented, straight out of the NACP Training Center, straight out of Miss Black, Oklahoma, Monique Whitaker walked down that aisle as Miss NACP from Oklahoma. And when she started walking, the people started clapping. It was something to behold.
And that banner that they had around them that said Miss Oklahoma, Mr. Oklahoma, the introduction that was given there on a national level. You know, it was just great to see Lionel, because Lionel is not 15, 16 years old, but Lionel is a dynamic, clumsy sometimes, awkward sometimes, preteen. I think Lionel's only 11 years old.
No,
and they had a
11
dance.
or 12. I think he's 12.
I think he's, well, okay, at any rate, he's a preteen barely. But Lionel was a little leery about dancing. But that NACP national program of Mr. and Miss NACP this year, they had an opening routine that was out of sight. And you'd never guess who all of a sudden from somewhere deep in his soul come out with a way to get those feet moving right. And he and Monique, they were just as beautiful and on time, in step, and right there on the second row leading their portions of the opening number. So Lionel Bennett and Monique Whitaker, I want you to know that all of us in Oklahoma, and those, especially those of us who had an opportunity to see you, kind of like an ugly duckling. He went from a can't dance to a can dance. So Lionel, we're extremely proud of you. Monique, we're extremely proud of you. And that Mr. and Miss NACP contest is very important, not only to Oklahoma City's Youth Council, but to the national NACP. Isn't that right, Mom?
Right. And when you see all of these states represented, and all of these people here cheering for their young people, is something that's out of sight. And I am proud of it, and I know you are proud of our program. The next is the extra programs, the reading programs at Freedom Center, the combinations, the fact that you are in tune with the problems, and certainly the national office, and I'm not Clara Luper, and I'm not bragging because here's the trophy. I'm only saying to you that your NACP Youth Council went over because of you, and a lot of thanks to all of you that made it possible.
There was a lot of catfish dinners.
A lot of catfish
I bet this year, though, between now and next year's convention, I'm willing to go on the line again. I know there's some people that say, Calvin, boy, you can't compete with someone on them catfish dinners. But I don't know if it's going to take me selling more catfish dinners for our youth council to be number one, and more catfish dinners I've got to sell. And I want those of you out there who've been ignoring my pleas to be on my team when it comes to catfish dinner time. I want you to be ready for the next one that the Oklahoma City NACP Youth Council will be having. And I want you to call in and say that you heard about it on the Clara Luper radio show on KTLV, but you want to get your catfish dinner from Calvin Luper.
The next area in which the Oklahoma City NACP Youth Council was honored was in history. In Freedom Center, you will see pictures of blacks and whites that have made contributions to America's ideas. And you will know that at the NACP Youth Council, I think this is the only picture of Richard Allen's grave that you will see in Oklahoma City. And the young people that comes through that program, these young people understand Roscoe Dungy, Jackie Robinson, and others, because their pictures are there. And as you know, we are building a monument, and we will be, the way it looks now, we have done our pavement, we've done the wiring, and the monument will be going up immediately after the Freedom Fiesta. The national office looked at that, and they could not, they were just astonished. Not only that, we were interested in attitudes, and the attitudes determine the altitudes, and an attitude that will cause young people to participate in all programs. And that's one thing I like about the NACP Youth Council. I don't care whose program it is, if they need someone or ideas, and when I say ideas, they need participation, because we aren't going to try to run anybody else's business. As NACP, the young people just need to know, what do you want done? We furnish more speakers for various occasions than any other youth group in America. Our young people won more honors than any other group. Now, you should be proud, and I'm going to ask you, and I'm serious, I want you to call and congratulate us, because if our young people had been out raping, they had been committing crimes, they could have made headlines. But thank God they've made headlines in heaven, because they did what was right, because it was right. Congratulations to the NACP Youth Council comes from Robert Gates.
I know Mr. Gates would have been proud of all of the Oklahoma City NACP Youth Council members, but especially those who participated in the AXO program.
But Mr. Gates was proud of all our young people, and he stood there and watched, and he said, these young people are going to go. If they don't have enough money, they are going to get some money. And he went down in his pocket and made a contribution. And that's one thing that I'm so proud of. Our people understand that the members of the NACP Youth Council do not come from the richest families in Oklahoma City. In fact, once you move out, you don't have to worry about NACP anymore. But they come from average families, families that realize that the kids are going to have something else besides expensive jeans, expensive clothes, expensive food. They're going to have something in order that they can survive the struggle. And Mr. Gates, just a little note. Dear Mr. Robert Gates, you have been our standby. You have been with us through the hot days of June and the cold days of December. You have helped us in our programs, regardless of what kind they were. Not only have you used your finances, your words, but you have used your heart. And because of you, we were able to go to Houston and come back as a number 3 youth council in the United States. Your motto is, we make people beautiful, but you are making our lives beautiful through example. And from all of us to you, Mr. Gates, we love you. And that's from Chris Fowler, President, and the members of the NACP Youth Council. But those of you that need a haircut today, and even if you don't need one, go by Gates Barbershop and get one anyhow, because you cannot determine exactly what you need. Gates Barbershop, located at 2609 North Martin Luther King Boulevard in Oklahoma City. Open Tuesday through Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You don't have to call. All you have to do is to go by Gates Barbershop. And on next week, the NACP's trophy, and it is beautiful, will be on display at Gates Barbershop here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Now, do you understand why we won the 3rd award in the United States? Do you understand? If you don't understand, call me here at 672-1220. I want you to do that because I want to make sure that you understand that you did it. You smiled at our kids as they stood on the streets, solicited memberships, their voters registered.